So you guys all shared your single story, and I appreciate that. And so, if you're interested, um, this is my single story. And so my single story is about babies. And for a very long time in life, I knew that I wanted to have kids, but I was busy. I was in school and I was working and I was traveling and I was in a doctoral program and a whole bunch of other stuff. And so when I got around to having babies, I always just assumed that, or trying to have babies, I should say, I always just assumed that that would happen. And although I vaguely knew that sometimes women had problems getting pregnant, or that women would have miscarriages, I didn't really know anything about that. And I didn't know anyone who had had these experiences. And so when it kind of came time for that to happen for me, we had a miscarriage. And that was a real shock because really the only knowledge I had of that was one coworker who had one previously, and she had been kind enough to share that with me, but it was just kind of a chance meeting and a conversation that happened over a table at a library. And then I started to do some research, and I found out that, about 1 in 4, 1 in 5 pregnancies actually end in miscarriage. And this was data I just didn't have knowledge about. And then I joined a club. And so as soon as people started kind of finding out that I had had a miscarriage, women came out of the woodwork. Like, women who I had no clue had ever had miscarriages. A colleague in California, one of my student workers from like 15 years ago. And it was just like a horde of people were like, oh yeah, me too. And I found that there was such silence about miscarriage in our culture and such stigma associated with it, and that women really didn't talk about it at all and that experience at all. And a lot of what I found is that people typically had these within the first 2 to 3 months of their pregnancy, and so that's why you were told not to share that you were pregnant. And I'd always known, well, don't share, but I hadn't ever questioned that social norm and why that social norm exists and why this unwritten rule is there. And the other thing that I started to learn as I joined this club is how much pain is associated with that loss, because and how much of a grief process it is for people, and how you still hang on to that. And I also started to notice that babies were everywhere. I mean, it's kind of like when we break up with someone and that person maybe drives a certain type of car, say like a Ford pickup truck, and you never before noticed Ford pickup trucks, and now you see them all over the place every time you're on the road. Babies were everywhere. So you couldn't escape babies. Like, you would go to a Super Bowl party and there'd be a small child at the Super Bowl party. Or you literally cannot go through Target to buy your toilet paper or to get a variety of other things without going through the baby section, because the baby section in Target is located in the middle of the store. And so if you wanted to do your shopping and not see the baby section, you would have to walk all the way around the perimeter of the store. And so babies really started popping up out of the woodwork in places I never even imagined they could be. And then we had another miscarriage. And then we had a third miscarriage. And then we started going to a lot of doctors. And one of the things, the story that I had to change is that not all women may actually be able to have kids of their own. And I'd always assumed that because I'm healthy and because I'm, relatively under the age of 40, and I mean, my medical history, the most exciting thing that ever happened to me was my wisdom teeth being removed, that I'd be able to have kids. And so this is a single story that I was unaware of, and it's one that it may be the truth. And so then I started to look at other stories out there, and stories about infertility, and stories about adoption, and to understand what other possibilities are available if you want to take care of others and you want to have a family, and that's part of things that you're interested in life. And so my single story is the single story of assuming that everyone or myself could have a baby, and the realization of how much social stigma and how much social silence is around the topic of miscarriage, and how important it is to break that down and to make sure that those stories are heard.